All right, let's do more problems dealing with installment loans. See if we can use that formula and understand what they're really asking us to find. Okay, that's probably the hardest thing, is reading carefully and make sure you're answering the question. So this question says use the add-on method of calculating interest to find the total interest and figure out the monthly payment. Okay. All right, so the loan was for $4,500. It was for 4 years at 4.5% add-on interest. So we could use that formula. Let me write it down again here. We could plug in the 4,500, the 1 plus the 0.045, that's the interest rate, times the 4 years, and figure that out. All right, when we figure that out, we type that in and work it out, we wind up getting $5,310. So that would be the total amount that includes both the $4,500 and the interest we would have to pay for having borrowed that money. Okay. All right. So the question asked us for the total interest. All right. Along with the monthly payment. So you might want to have calculated just the interest. So you could either do that directly by doing PRT, just do the 4,500 times the 0.045 times the 4 and get it that way, turn out to be $810. Or if you went ahead and did this formula, that 5,310 is the total amount to be repaid, and that's good to know when you're trying to figure out the monthly payment. So if you did it this way, got this first, couldn't you just take the 5,310 and subtract the 4,500 and get the 810? Okay, so you have those options for calculating just the total interest that you wound up paying. Okay. All right, now the monthly payment part of this would be found by taking the 5,310, and you don't just divide it by 12. The loan was for 4 years. So you have to figure out that total, what do they call it specifically on this? The number of payments is what they called it, the actual number of payments. So if you had taken 4 years to pay that off and you're going to do it monthly, then you want to know how many months there are in that time period. So that means you're going to pay it off in 48 months. So you're going to take the 5,310 and just divide by 48. These kinds of things are kind of logical. Like you can think through it. These are things you're going to be dealing with or you've already dealt with, right? And that would turn out to be about $110.63. Okay, so you want to find out how many months, since we're doing monthly payments, we would have. Okay, so that's 4 years times 12. And then you divide the amount that you borrowed plus the interest. So the amount that needs to be repaid, you divide that by 48. And that means every one of those 48 months, you would need to pay $110 and around 63 cents to pay it off in 4 years. Okay. All right, now on this next one. Oh, and if they asked me for the interest first and then the monthly payment, then I might have calculated the 810 and never used this formula because I could just take the 4,500 and add the 810 to come up with the amount I would have to repay. Okay. So make sense of it. Whatever way makes sense for you. It depends on the kind of the questions they're going to ask me, how I might approach it. So let's try that on this one. Since I want to know the total interest, I might just take the 750. I might just be using, let me erase it and put the formula I'm going to use. So I might just decide to use this formula that the interest could be calculated by using the simple interest formula. And then I could put in the 750. I could put in the interest rate. That's a tricky one. That would be 0.037. Move the decimal 2 places. Divide by 100. Move the decimal 2 places. So that would be times 0.037, and then multiply by the number of years. Right? It's 18 months. So remember, if you want years, 18 months, you could take that, divide by 12. It's going to be more than a year, isn't it? It's going to be 1 whole year and then 6 months more. So 1.5 years. Okay. You don't ever use mixed numbers, though. I don't know why I shouldn't have shown that. So 18 divided by 12 could be reduced by dividing by 6, top and bottom. And you get 3 halves or 1.5. You could use either 3 halves or 1.5. You can use the decimal when it doesn't go on forever, when it's an exact value, or just use the number of years written as a fraction. All right, so I could do that and just calculate that part to get the interest. Okay. All right, so if I did that, my interest would be about, if I rounded to the nearest hundredth, $41.63. So I could find that first, since they asked me for it. Then I could take my original principal. I could think about the amount then being the principal plus the interest. Okay, so I could take the $750 plus the $41.63, and that would give me the $791.63 that I would really, about that, okay, that I would really be needing to repay. Okay, so that would be the total amount I would have to repay. Still not finished with the answer to the question, though. They did want the interest, so that's this. That's the interest. And then the other thing they wanted was the monthly payment. So then I have to think, okay, well, that and I probably shouldn't round on this at that point, but maybe, well, that's okay. So then I could take that 791.63 and I could divide by the number of months, because I'm making a payment every month, and that would give me about, and let me double check this. I'm going to type it in. You should too. I rounded differently when I did it earlier for myself. Okay, I'm going to divide that by 18, and I'm going to get around $43.98. So that right there would be what my monthly payment would be. Okay. All right. So because they asked me for interest, that's why maybe I'd like to just use that formula. But I could start with this formula to get the total amount repaid, which would allow me to then get the monthly payment. And if I did it that way, I could have not done this, and I could have taken the 791.63 and just subtracted 750, and I would get the 41.63 that way also. Okay. Those are 2 very common ways to do it. I'm not trying to confuse you, but I do want you to make sense of it. However, whatever makes good common sense to you is okay to do there. Okay. All right, let's look at this one. Here we have a situation where we have this person buying furniture. So they're going to buy $5,400 worth of furniture and appliances. She's going to pay $1,100 down, and then she's going to pay the balance of what she owes at 5% add-on interest for 2 years. And our job is to get something different than on the previous question. We're going to get the monthly payment, and then we're also going to find what the total cost of the purchase would be. All right, so first, let's take that $5,400. Let's subtract the $1,100 she's going to put down, because that's going to tell us the amount financed. Okay, so that's the amount financed. Okay. All right, so then what I'm going to do, if I need the monthly payment, is I'm either going to calculate the interest and then add it back to the 4,300, or I'm going to use this formula right here, okay, to get the total amount that I would need to repay. So that would be I'll put it down here. So that would be the amount financed, and then 1 plus 0.05 for the 5% interest rate, and I'd be multiplying that by 2 for the 2 years. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do that. And that turns out to be 4,730. And that's the total that must be repaid, which they didn't ask me for. Total that must be repaid. Okay, the total I would have to repay. So I borrowed 4,300, and then I have to pay a little bit of interest on that. And this calculates the interest and goes ahead and adds it back. Okay. All right. I did figure that out. I needed that because I have to figure out how much I have to pay every month. So I'm going to take that 4,730 and I'm going to divide by how many monthly payments I'm going to be making. So here's where you need to take the 2 years. The 2 years would be 24 months, wouldn't it? So you're going to take 4,730 and divide it by 24. And that turns out being 197.08 about. Okay. And that would be the monthly payment. Okay. So they asked for the monthly payment. So that's one of the answers. That's this one. All right. Then the other thing they asked for was the total cost of the purchase. Total cost of the purchase. Probably the easiest thing to do would just be to take this amount. So we have to repay 4,730 would be to take that and add to it the amount we paid up front. Okay, that 4,730 is the amount financed together with the interest we had to pay. So if we add the 1,100 back to it, that'll give us the total. Okay, let me make sure I added that right. The 5,830 would be the total cost of the purchase. Total cost. Okay. The other way would be if instead of using that formula, you had just calculated the interest you would have to pay on the 4,300, then you could take that interest and add it back. Okay. You could have taken that interest and just added the interest to the 5,400 and you would get the same thing. Okay. All right. And then one more question. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze this in. I don't like my videos to get too long because I know it's hard to watch videos. Here we have the total purchase price of a new home entertainment system is $14,240. Okay. I'm just saying that's ridiculous. I would never spend that much money. All right. Anyway, if the down payment is $2,900 and the balance is to be financed over 48 months at 6% add-on interest, what would be the monthly payment again and the total cost of the purchase? So this is just like the previous question, just with a different context. Okay. So let me go ahead. 48 months. This time they gave me how many months? 48 months. If I take the 48 and I divide it by 12, that tells me that's the same as 4 years. Because in one part of this, I need to know how many years. And then in another part, I need to know how many months. So I really need them both. Okay. And it's just add-on interest, add-on simple interest. All right. So I'm going to take the 14,240, but I'm going to subtract from that the money that the person puts down. Okay. So that's $11,340. Okay. All right. Then I could calculate the interest on that, especially if that was one of the questions they wanted me to answer. Or I could use the formula A equals P times 1 plus RT, and I could calculate how much I need to repay. So I could take the amount financed and then plug in the 6%, which would be 0.06 times, and here's where I needed the 4 years. Okay. And that would wind up giving me the total amount to be repaid. So that would be about $14,061.60. So let me label these. So this one is the amount financed. This would be the total amount that needs to be repaid. Okay. All right, now I need the monthly payment. So if I know the total amount to be repaid is $14,061.60, and I'm gonna have this loan for 48 months, couldn't I divide by 48 to get the monthly payment? And that would turn out to be $292.95. Okay. And that would be the monthly payment. Right? And so that's one of the things they asked me for, was the monthly payment. But the other thing they wanted was the total cost of the purchase. So what I could do, if I knew just how much the interest was, I could add it to the $14,240. But the other thing I could do is take that total amount to be repaid and just add to that the down payment that I already made. And then that, you got to remember that you already paid that much. And then that would turn out to be $16,961.60. So that would be the total cost of the purchase. Again, it would be the same as $14,240 plus the interest, total cost of the purchase. All right, so it's important that you read what you're being asked for, because they might ask you just for the amount financed, or they might ask you for the interest. So you have to pay attention to what they really want. So both 4 and 5 wanted the monthly payment and then the total cost of the purchase. So where it said monthly payment, I'd put $197.08. Total cost of the purchase would be the $5,830. Same deal here, same type of thing on number 4. Okay. All right, now the rest of the paper is going to go through the idea of a revolving loan, okay, or open-end credit. All right, and I filled all that in. Oh, I thought I filled it in on the one that you see here. I'll fix that. I'll fix the one that's posted to include the filled-in version for the revolving loan. So all that'll be filled in, and you can read about it because it's kind of interesting, but I don't want to take the time to do it, but it's interesting how they calculate how much your finance charge is going to be on your credit card. So your credit card, it's not like an installment loan. You don't have a set amount that you're trying to repay in a certain time period. Sometimes you pay part of what you owe and then charge more stuff and back and forth. And so the balance that's in there kind of changes. And so they have to have a way of calculating how much they're going to charge you as a finance charge. So again, I do have that already worked out, and I will make sure that's posted for you just to look at. We won't do a video on that. Okay.